the love, the compassion to make the hard decisions for all of our residents, especially at this time of budget crisis. We ask you to keep us safe in your embrace today and always. We ask that in your name, dear Lord. And to that we all say, Amen.
Okay, folks, so to the county attorneys, would this be a good time to entertain the reasonable opportunity to be heard?
It would, Mr. Chair.
Awesome, so can we open reasonable opportunity to be heard officially? And I don't have any speaker cards. If anybody would like to speak, now is your chance, going once, going twice, and can we close reasonable opportunity to be heard?
Yes, Mr. Chair, now that it's been opened and nobody has appeared.
Thank you so much. And can I get a motion to set the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Higgins, second by Commissioner Hardeman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Mr. Chair, with that vote, the official agenda, including the addition of 2D, has been set.
Right. And does anybody have anything that they'd like to add on the poll list? No?
I'm happy to move the entire agenda if my colleagues agree.
I'll second it.
Thank you so much. So moved by Commissioner Higgins, second by Commissioner Bastian. I would like to please be listed as a co-sponsor for item 2B.
You got it. You got it, Mr. Chair.
And I'm going to pull 1F1, and we can discuss it once the agenda is done. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I think the agenda is passed. Awesome. So I do want to touch on public safety. We did have a couple of conversations during our 12-hour meeting, which Commissioner Hardeman went viral with the 1 a.m. post, which was epic. I do have some questions. They should be, relatively easy questions, fast questions to go through. I would like to start with fire, since fire was kind of the big topic. If I could get the fire chief, Jadala, and Mr. McAllister, I'd like to invite them both down to the podiums at this time. And honestly, I put this item on so that we can talk about the response times and just bring some clarification, because I feel like there are, some folks think that perhaps the response times wouldn't warrant a bigger discussion than what we've already had. So I just kind of want to go through some of these response time questions. Shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. And obviously, if any of my colleagues would like to jump in, please let me know. So I want to talk about the carryover. I want to begin with the carryover that was mentioned in passing last Thursday at our first budget hearing. The mayor assured us that there's no fiscal emergency in Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, citing to $44 million in carryover that is available to the department this coming fiscal year. So let's talk about that carryover. Chief, how much of that carryover is unencumbered. So in other words, how much of that money is already accounted for to be spent, if any?
So, Mr. Chair, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and to all of our appointed leaders. Ray Jadala, Fire Chief. So, in regards to the 44 million, approximately 44 million, all of it is encumbered, sir.
All 44 million?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
So, we have quite a bit of capital that should be coming in over the course of next fiscal year and the fiscal year after that. But in regards to it being encumbered for capital, for operating capital, it's encumbered. It's already asked for.
Got it. So this is money. This is money that it hasn't been spent because I guess it hasn't been called or it's not due yet, but it's already accounted for.
Yes, sir. And it could be over the course of next fiscal year, the fiscal year after that, et cetera.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
James Reyes, Chief of Public Safety. Also taking up some of those dollars and some of the encumbrance of those dollars is, as you know, and you've heard both the president and the chief mention that we were budgeted for this fiscal cycle to add 2 units. As you've heard time and time and again through collaboration of the IAFF and our leadership, we've actually added 6 units, 4 of which have been recent. So as you know, the proposed budget that you had before you did not include those 4 units that were added. So those 4 units eat up some of that rollover that you will see in the books, because obviously they weren't in the proposed budget. We added them post the proposed budget, so they will be encumbering some of the funds that make up that $40 million.
Thank you, Chief. And I actually wanted to have a conversation about that because I have a 5-year plan in front of me, which was revised October 30th of 2024 by MDFR. And my understanding is that this 5-year plan is revised periodically to address service gaps, right? One of which, for example, might be higher than usual response times, which is what we've been discussing. I was a little shocked when I came to the needs analysis portion because according to this report, an additional 24 suppression units are needed to cover these service gaps. And, the chief just mentioned 6, which are included in this budget. I realized that this is almost a year ago that we revised this 5-year plan. So how many of those 24 suppression units have been put in service since the report came out? And if we include those 6 that are coming up?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm not exactly sure the resources that are allocated on that paper, but what I could say is the 24 suppression companies that you're referring to is not, just trucks that need to go in service today or tomorrow. These are, like you had mentioned, over the course of 5 years and sometimes even 10 years. The one example I give you is the one I gave during the whole committee, where we have trucks allocated for the Dream Mall. Right now, the Dream Mall is just a cow pasture, and the intent is not to put a fire unit or a fire station there. So some of the areas that we've identified, we continue to look for, land, acquire the land, purchase the land, place a temporary facility to open up the truck. But what I could say is we've opened up 6 units this fiscal year. I want to say that 3 are suppression, 2 are rescues. And, again, I just don't know what resources you have on the paper there.
Through the chair.
Yes, Chief, please.
Thank you. I'd like to add that.
And before you start, Chief, to my colleagues, because Commissioner Higgins was asking some really good questions. If either of you have any questions, please feel free.
As I'm sure you know, Chair, based on your experience, in public safety, strategic plans are a living document. So what is a priority in October of 2024 might shift in March of 2025, might shift in October, depending on what Chief Jadala and his administration deem to be a priority. So in all strategic plans, it's a living document where we're allowed to shift to the perfect example of what Chief Jadala is describing, where he has a vision for certain areas that we expect growth, we expect density. However, if that doesn't happen, then you will see that same item time and time and again throughout the strategic plan without it being addressed, because that need is not to be prioritized over other needs that the administration identifies.
Okay. Mr. McAllister, you look kind of quiet. Would you like to add?
Yeah, it's certainly true. It's an evolving 5-year document. But we're talking about the section in here related to suppression coverage. This list, while it may not have stations physically in existence yet, demonstrates a need that is most clearly documented, and the response times that are well above the average. So of the 24 that are listed in this document 11 months ago, 10 months ago, Ladder 18 in North Miami and Engine 77 at TRT unit opened down south. Ladder 87 was supposed to open in Doral, and because of conversations regarding shortfalls in Medley, Engine 83 goes into service next week. So you have 21 suppressions on this list, some of which don't yet have stations because we've been attempting to build one for many years that need to go into service, but nearly half of those are urgently needed. They aren't theoretical, they aren't based upon a field turning into a mall. These are well-documented shortfalls in existing areas that require service now in neighborhoods that are unprotected to the extent that we should be protecting them.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to his assessment of, some of the units, I definitely don't agree, and it's, I would say it's not factual. And what I mean by that is Ladder 87, which was scheduled to be placed at the fire station in Doral, which is a facility that we've, reacquired in regards to placing a fire station there. We've come across some hurdles in regards to getting that station up and running. Initially, we were given a timetable of 6 months. We've now been given a timetable of 18 to 24 months. Not the fact that, there's a resource. If tomorrow that station was available, we would place a unit in service at 87 and 83. But we moved the unit to station 83 because it makes sense temporarily. And at the same time, 83, which is at Medley, it's one of the units that you have probably on your sheet, was a area that which we own, which is a north shop where we fix our facilities. We're actually placing a trailer there, which took us 8 months to, get the process going and get the water and sewer, and hopefully we could have it in service by the end of this month. But that's, this is where we talk about the strategic plan being a live document.
Where it evolves.
And we have to audible, just like in football. So again, this is no different, but if tomorrow Station 87 was complete, which is the building, we would be able to place a unit in service. But to place a unit in service where it doesn't necessarily meet the geographical area to reduce response times doesn't make sense right now.
Got it. And
I'll just elaborate on that.
sure, go ahead.
Station 87, whether it's delayed or not, is due to be available to staff a unit, to house a unit this upcoming fiscal year. There is no new service in this budget. There is no funding for new service anywhere. Even if we said 3 suppressions and then we changed the physical locations from this laundry list of shortages, there is no units budgeted in this budget currently to pay for any new service to go on, whether it's the Miccosukee engine that we've heard may happen next year, or if Ladder 87's quarters is finalized and then tomorrow. There is no funding approved by this board for those units to go into service. And just on suppression coverage alone, just fire trucks carrying water, there's 21 options on this sheet that have demonstrated that there's a need, of which the first half of the list either have existing quarters, or just like there was quarters built urgently in Medley, they could do that in a period of months as well.
How much do these suppression units cost?
Right now, $4.5 million to staff, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
4.5 million? And that's to staff?
The staff accordingly, yes. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Look, I think the sentiment of everybody up here is to primarily make sure that public safety is a priority for the folks of Miami-Dade County. right? And so I just want to make sure, because I have all of the experts here. Like, you three guys are, you're the quarterbacks when it comes to public safety as far as fire is concerned. And so, as I stated earlier, I want to get to the facts here, right? Because the mayor has stated that in the first budget hearing that there's no emergency at hand, right? And if there isn't, then we need to know that. So you literally deal with emergencies every single day to that point, right? Chief, how many emergency calls roughly does your department receive on a daily basis? And I know you probably don't have like the actual number, but can you give me like a rough estimate?
So daily, every 24 hours, between 800 and 900 calls a day.
800 to 900 calls. Okay. And I imagine that, some emergencies require multiple cars. Like, my district abuts the Miccosukee, so I imagine that some emergencies, they might have multiple trucks responding to one incident, right?
Yes, sir.
So how many trucks are dispatched daily, like roughly, rough estimate? Do you know more or less how many trucks are dispatched daily?
I could get you that number, before the meeting's over, but I don't have that number offhand.
Do you think it would be safe to say maybe 1,500 to 2,000?
As many.
Because I'm looking at the 5-year plan, so I'm just.
It sounds about right, but I just didn't want to shoot off the hip.
Yes, sir. So, if I'm doing the math correctly, your department sees roughly about 300,000 emergencies annually, and response times are going up every year, which we have a plan to fix that. But I don't understand how there's no emergency if the response times are going up. And if we execute this 5-year plan accordingly, then the response times will go down. But if we don't have the funds for the 5-year plan to be executed, then it kind of seems like we are in an emergency. Can you guys clarify that?
Sure. Chair, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I possibly can, but
Please.
as the chief has mentioned time and time and again, there are items that are priorities for him and his administration in that strategic plan that if he had the cash flow, he could not put in place because he needs a station, for example. So whether it's not throwing money at a problem that's going to reduce the call times. It's strategically placing units in the areas that need to reduce those times that are going to reduce ultimately the response times. And in some cases, as we did this year, we can, in fact, to use his term, shoot from the hip and put additional units into place. In other scenarios, we cannot because we don't have stations strategically placed that will really allow us to impact those times. And he is in the process of, in many of those areas, either acquiring land, building a station, and that's exactly what the plan is. So it's not only a money or a resource issue, it's also a location and a station issue that can really assist. Now, I will say this.
But Chief, before you continue, because that's where the unencumbered monies comes, right? Because one of my questions was, as I understand it, being fiscally responsible, we don't have to pay for these units until they're delivered, right? And I don't know who put that deal together, but that's awesome, okay? So if they're not due upon receipt, how many are we going to receive now? And then do we have enough money to pay for those units that we do receive? What happens if we receive, all 23?
We do, because we haven't touched upon our capital dollars yet. So we do have a capital budget that has reserves in it. In addition to having enough funds to pay for those units as they arrive, one of the things that perhaps MDFR is looking to do differently under the leadership of Chief Jadala and with the cooperation of OMB is actually finance future station projects, future land acquisition, future development in order to free up additional dollars to add units. So OMB has now approved that. That is something that we haven't done in the past as a department, and we're looking forward to doing it. And to touch upon President McAllister's comment about how many units are in next year's budget, just like this fiscal year, we only had 2 units budgeted, and we added 6 units. We look forward to, in fact, as he knows, that with his help, we've been in negotiation with Mikasuki, and we're adding that unit we're looking forward to next year. We're also looking at, now that we're looking to finance some of those capital obligations, to free up dollars that can lead us to adding additional units that, when strategically placed, will assist in decreasing response times, not for the sake of just adding a unit, because my priority is Chief Zadala's and his administration's strategic plan and making sure that we see it through.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please,
So
Chief.
just to touch up on Chief Reyes's, statement. So we continue to look at different models, to get fire stations where we need to get to. And you are correct. We're all on the same page, trying to get the resources, et cetera. Now, we're looking at, working with the different developers. Some of the things that we discussed internally in the past year is, I'll give you an example, the single-family homes. There's always models, right? 4 or 5 different models that they provide to for residents to kind of walk through to see what the house looks like before they purchase them. So one of the things that we've encountered is the impact fees are just not enough. And even though we are currently, working with the county to have an impact study done where we could review the cost, we're looking at, the possibility of temporarily taking a model home after all the houses are sold in the community and placing a temporary fire station there. Another thing that we've looked at is, as many of the structures continue to go vertical, not necessarily, just lay horizontal, we're looking to have, fire stations built as part of, an agreement where impact fees may not necessarily be charged, but they build a fire station within a parking garage like we did in Station 76. And again, we continue to look at different models, but there is, quite a bit of delay in trying to land acquisition land across the county.
Thank you, Chief. Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Higgins, please.
That's very interesting, and it spurred a connection to some of the things that, quite frankly, our colleague Commissioner Regalado is in the lead on, which is we need small pump stations, right? Also, as we expand further west and further south. And she has been, quite frankly, relentless in a good way. I mean that as a compliment, in making sure when we're at CDMP and zoning, and we are very committed on this board for density. We realize that if all we do is build estate homes where there's one house on every acre, nobody's kids are going to ever be able to have a place to live. And so we are building townhouses and allowing smaller houses and doing that, which is the only way, to solve our affordability crisis. But she has been, when we are doing this on larger parcels, larger communities or planned communities, asking them to dedicate a space for a small pump station. And we're covenanting that, and that's happening almost at every zoning hearing. And CDMP, I know we don't probably have the right, you guys are the wrong attorneys for the zoning things, but is that something that, whether it's through the zoning process or the CDMP, because there's 2 places we change land use, right? Sometimes we do it in the CDMP, which is a very lengthy and agonizing process. But maybe you all could check to see if that is something we could codify to make it easier, because impact fees are one thing, right? And because that's money, and money is always good because that's how you build and operate things. But I actually think the harder thing for you is finding space.
And that's 100% correct.
Right? I mean, I think that's my understanding of the situation, which is why you and I talked yesterday about the 42-acre parcel, right? Because that's space, and space matters. So, colleagues, this might be an interesting approach. I mean, you all know I'm leaving, so I don't have time to do the legislative item, but Can you all
Certainly-
just look in
certainly
and
we
get
could take
back
it up.
to me? And then maybe at next month's committee meeting,
can
I
take
could
it
give
up.
you an update, at least of whether it's possible to do it. And maybe we just do it by motion, right? Like that you become the Raquel Regalado of fire stations versus sewage treatment, and which actually is, I mean, I think is a little nicer. But, and then every time we're looking at a zoning item in anybody's district, we ask for a partial, or you can tell us what areas, you guys could make a map. I presume chiefs, it's very confusing. You've got two of them, you chiefs. I presume you already have a map, and then we could literally, at every zoning hearing, have it in front of us and go, you know what, this development is in the zone. They need a fire station, and yeah, we need housing, but I would sacrifice 2 homes to get you guys a fire station any day of the week, because
And it'll open up for units, and we can lower response times.
yeah, so we need help. We need you guys to help us with the maps, and we need you attorneys to help us to figure out if it's legal. I presume it is, in a similar way that Raquel's been doing for water and sewer. Does that make sense?
I think it does. Do you guys want to get back to us at the next
Chief, or,
meeting?
I mean,
Get back to you.
am I off base here?
Absolutely not. I think it's music to Ray Zadala's ears. That's exactly the cooperation and collaboration he's been looking for.
You're gonna hate us,
stating on
because
the
that means you're
record.
gonna have to come to zoning hearings.
That's fine. He has maps for you. He has maps ready for you. So believe me, he's happy to hear what you just had to say. As I'm sure President McAllister is too, as he knows some strategic areas that we've been trying to add stations in, and we've met a lot of resistance in the
Yeah,
past.
and listen, we allow greater density because we realize we are in a housing crisis, right? I mean, and so we intentionally do that. But I'm also not confused that these developers are asking us for greater density because they make more money that way. So they benefit financially, and we benefit with additional housing units, but their financial benefit often is quite dramatic.
And I think that
And so they could offer a little bit of their space for us.
And I think they certainly can. I think that we certainly can talk to some developers about offering some space. And then in the cases that we can find developers that offer space, if the $40 million is encumbered, then we're going to have to find resources. Do you folks know where we can find those resources aside from some of these public-private partnerships, which I think Commissioner Higgins is spot on. We definitely need to do that. But then, especially if the $40 million is encumbered, once we start identifying these parcels, where can we find the resources for that? And then right after you respond, I know that Mr. McAllister has been raising his hand for a long time.
Okay. So through the chair, as I said earlier, we have capital dollars set aside that we're looking to pivot away from using those capital dollars and financing, especially for these long-term, how long these projects takes to see them come to fruition, so that we don't tie up our dollars and reduce the flexibility that the fire chief has to add units. But to speak specifically, because as you know, there's a whole different process you've already seen one change memo. I know there's another change memo coming from a
and
budget
Chief,
standpoint.
Can you tell me the total number of those cap dollars?
I can, but if I may, I'd like to call Director Claude Felter up from OMB, who has the breakdown of all the dollars, because I know you have questions about the encumbrance. So
Yes, please. And yes, I'm going to get to you, sir. I just really want to know what the cap dollars amount is, and then I
it was
promise I'll give you the
14,
floor.
but go ahead.
And I just, do you mind if I interrupt for 1 second? Will you all look, the zoning meeting is the 25th, I think, the upcoming zoning. Will you all look through that zoning agenda and see if there is any upzoning that's happening on a parcel that might be in an area? So please just take a peek at that. Thank you. Sorry to
25th
interrupt, but I
25th
had
at
another
9:30.
little thing. You know how sometimes the wheel gets stuck. So thank you.
Great job, Commissioner Higgins. So yes, sir. Do you know how much, because, you know, the chief is alluding to something that seems really interesting. How much cap dollars do we have?
Good morning, David Clodfelter, OMB. To answer that, I'd like to answer that in 3 different pieces real quick. Set aside the $44 million that was carryover that has been quote unquote encumbered or allocated towards new services or other expenditures. There is currently in the proposed budget a contingency reserve in the fire district operations fund of $21.4 million. The first change memo set aside 13.8 towards the air buying back or giving back for air rescue. The cap dollars is approximately $14 million in reserve. That's $49.2 million. Ms. Chief Reyes was alluding towards those cap dollars being freed up. What he's referring to is they have enough in the operating fund of non-ad valorem revenue that they could possibly finance instead of cash flow these capital projects. That frees up $14 million in cash today. So that's the cap dollars, and also an explanation of what's on here.
Are we looking into that?
We've already gone through it. OMB in the past, perhaps there are different perspectives. We're all on the same page, and we're moving forward with that.
Okay, so that would free up an extra $14 million.
Correct. Just from the capital dollars alone.
Got it, because we have already taken $13.8 million for air rescue as part of the last change memo, correct?
In the first change memo, there's 13.8 coming back from general fund to the fire district. So that's one of the pieces that I just came up to the $49.2 million. And that 14 million that's referred to as capital reserve, that's available. So if we were to go out for financing tomorrow, the way it works is we ask the bank we put together a letter of intent. So we could use this cash, and then by the time the item for financing gets to the board, that letter of intent covers us to the date that we established it with the bank, and the bank will reimburse us for the cash that we spend. So technically that 14 is available today.
Got it. And Mr. McAllister, I know that you wanted to make some points.
Yeah, in the 9 minutes we talked about, and now I'm a little more, 9 minutes we talked about real estate. If you were to take that as the time someone called for help, we still wouldn't have arrived. Our response times are bad, and they're worsening. And there is no magic in this 5-year plan that results in a reduction of response times. They will continue to increase. So the conversations, I really appreciate the willingness to work on real estate and capital expense and construction of stations, which currently take us anywhere from 5 to 10 years. As you alluded to earlier, there is 1,000 cries for help every single day. And we're taking an average of over 9 minutes to respond to life-threatening calls within the urban boundary. These solutions to build stations in the ideal locations is a minimum of 5 years out. And this response time issue needs resources now. And beginning next month, we will begin to take delivery of 10 suppressions, brand new, off the line. By January, we will begin taking delivery of 9 brand new rescues from vendors. We have fireboats sitting on trailers inland when we have a zone down south that has no coverage, and the promise of help is either 30 to 60 minutes away by water or by air rescue flying out and doing the work without a fireboat. So we have stations currently that have vacancies to accommodate additional units. Are they ideally situated at the latitude and longitude to effectuate the greatest reduction of response times? Perhaps not. But it would certainly and very logically reduce response times when a station is so often unavailable to run the calls within their primary response area if we added another unit. And the example I go back to is in Arcola Lakes. That station is one of the busiest in Dade County. And when I was a firefighter there before the Great Recession and the collapse that ensued, Rescue 67 was about to be put into service out of existing Station 7 to help reduce response times. And that station is still waiting for that rescue to move in. And the station that was to be built nearly 2 decades ago is still a vacant plot of land. So I don't want to get caught in this discussion of one day building stations that will take, by the fire chief's own admission, perhaps 5 years, perhaps 10 years, because land is difficult, when we have an existing solution now, which is we need the funding to open more units more quickly, because while this is a laundry list of options, we have options today that we could put at a minimum if the funding were to become available and when the trucks are delivered. There's 10 stations that could get another unit immediately. That's unequivocal. And if we want to debate that, we can, but I know it to be true because I've sat with the fire chief staff and ensured that there is 10 units. The author of this operations resource needs analysis, and I have compared notes. So we definitely need to solve the issue of Miami-Dade grew west and south and densified, and we didn't pay attention to the absolute critical necessity to build more firehouses. But in the interim, there is an urgent service need. We have the apparatus coming in. We just need the funding and the will of the commission to say, solve this problem quickly and try to apply your plan. And what I will close with for this moment is Surfside did not happen with advance notice. We did not have the opportunity to build out the infrastructure necessary for that Herculean effort to dig through that pile. We built it in a matter of hours, and it scaled over a period of days. And because firefighters are very good at one thing, is urgent logistical prioritization of resources. When a hurricane threatened, we tore it down, and when it passed, we built it again. So we do have issues that will take 5 or 10 or 20 years to resolve, and we need the board's help to solve those to give us the best chance to save lives. But currently, right now, we have the ability to put units into service that'll drive that response time down, that will save more lives, and perhaps protect a few firefighters from getting very seriously injured because it took too long for us to get there.
Because more units, if we have the funding to man them, would mean lower response times. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. As the fire chief said a couple of meetings ago, you could put 10 in the wrong location, and having 10 engines at the wrong location will not affect response times. But I can promise you, I can guarantee you that if you put them in the stations that are already overwhelmed, of which there are now many, that have the existing space to accommodate them tomorrow, as we did.
Are there at least 10?
There's at least 10. There's at least 10 operational units that could go into service tomorrow when the trucks are delivered. I should say, not tomorrow. When the trucks are delivered in a matter of months, they can go into service the next day and begin to drive those response times down and save lives. That's unequivocal.
Okay. We'll certainly take that into consideration. I only have one more question. Chief, I'm not sure if anybody's asked you this, but I'm going to ask you because I trust you, and I trust your expertise. And you've always showed the utmost leadership. And frankly, I think I speak for a lot of my colleagues when I say I trust your opinion, right? And so, was it your idea? And if so, tell me the logic. Was it your idea to move the air rescue out of the general fund and into the fire district?
No, sir.
Okay, that wasn't your idea.
To move the
air rescue out of the general fund and into the fire district. You didn't make that call as the fire chief, sir?
No, sir.
Who made that call? If you don't know, you don't know, sir.
I don't know.
So we don't know who decided to do this.
I could just say that from my side, from the fire department side, from the 3,000 employees, including the fire chief, it did not come from me.
Okay. Well, thank you. Unless any of my colleagues have any further questions, I think we're done today.
And just to answer your question in regards to the units, it's 1,100 units dispatched every 24 hours.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate you. Can I get a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. We are done. Thank you so much, guys.
Authority in Gulf County to include commissioners from Gulf, Franklin, Gadsden, and Liberty counties.
From the state's perspective, you've got 4 counties asking for one shared goal instead of 1 county and 3 others, or actually 4 or 5 others, all hoping to get a port going, but all having different ideas. This way will bring more people to the table, bring a consensus for the region, since it is a regional port, regional impact.
Another local bill would allow a nearby state-managed water and sewer district to take control